Hey, how you guys doing? I'm Lyndal Spirit, known as Love Sexy in the music industry. Been around for a long time. I was asked today about recording and what I do and things like that. So I thought I'd take a moment and just make a quick video. Music has changed so much. And I remember when the ASR-10, when we went out to Paisley Park, we had 3 ASR-10s, and I remember them not wanting to let us use them because of the ability to sample, and us showing how we sampled our own music. We did all our beats, and before you knew it, one was ordered for Paisley Park, specifically Prince. That was a really a day that I took in that change is coming, and how we do music is really changing now. A lot of the albums you hear out, people write in their homes, and that's what I want to talk about a little bit today. I am not a superb expert studio builder. I don't do that. I build what I need to do to get my creativeness out there. And then I have a larger studio that I go to that's owned by John Childs, and that I go to get the master mix and things like that. So what I want to talk to you about is getting from creativity thoughts to creativity reality. One of the things is you can record at home now. You can actually produce a professional album at home. And I'm sorry, I just got home, so I'm still all dressed up. I had a couple meetings today, so forgive me. I'll just toss it over there. So let's talk about that a little bit. You need a really good microphone. Right now I'm using the Yeti Pro Studio because I do so much, and it covers a wide range of stuff that I do. For instance, the radio shows, the music, getting the vocals in there, the podcast, the making this video right now. The Yeti's actually recording me right now for this video. So it has a wide range. It has 4 mics built into it, and it's an effective microphone for getting the stuff laid. I send to the studio, the main studio, when I do music. I send the vocal tracks that were done on the Yeti. Sometimes we use them, sometimes we don't. Usually the tracks also have all the effects layouts, the notations, all that stuff. So I send them over to John. John checks them out, puts them in the thing, and then when I get to the studio, it's all set up, and I can either relay tracks or the tracks we're keeping. We'll keep, but for the most part, I use it for ghost tracks. So you need a really good microphone. That is key. You need a really good computer, and it doesn't have to be top of the line. It just has to be good. The computers I use, I do not have any brand new computers in my house. I focus that money more on video equipment, other gear. I just got my KRK Rocket 5s so that I can mix without having the headphones on. I use Sony headphones, and I use the studio quality ones with the widest range. I don't have real expensive headphones, and I especially go for equipment that doesn't color the music. Coloring means that you can add bass or treble. I want it to sound like I'm recording it, and then let people, the consumer, put their tweaks on it. Okay. What else? There's so much. Even my stereo system is colorless, so when I'm blasting music, for the most part, it's pretty colorless. And for the home stereos, I actually got the loudest system around. And for professional systems, actually DJ Andre, who's next door to me, has the loudest, but he can't hook it up. It's also very powerful. So you want a good set of speakers, a good microphone, and a good computer. You can get you an old Apple. I really hate that Sony went out of business, because for PCs, Sony was the computer to have. And they were a little expensive, but they were worth every penny. I mean, I have a Sony that was made in 1998 over there that I do all my Fruity Loops on. It's actually my main music computer, And I still run every single software that's out today, as well as way back from 1998. So that should give you an idea of how powerful that computer was at the time I bought it, because I still use it on a daily basis. The new Apple that I just picked up is actually a 2009 model that I upgraded the software on it to El Captain, and then I upgraded the RAM. That was it, and it's doing excellent. I've had very few cutoffs, very few issues. When you're trying to work from home so that you can move on to bigger things and get that creativity out, you want just the least amount of problems. You want the straightest line from point A to point B. So buying you a old school Macintosh, mine was like $200. It's very easy to get software for. You know, the music software is fairly easy. In our main studio, we use Pro Tools, but we also have another one called Studio One, which John really loves. And so since that was John's main working point, I went on ahead and added it to my collection, and I love it too. It's very flexible software. So the software is not all that expensive. You can even find free software that will help you produce your music. Now, the thing is with the home studios, you want the best possible sound that you can get, because here's what you have to keep in mind. Okay, I don't care what type of artist you are, how much money you have, it doesn't matter. Okay, it doesn't. I don't care what you see Lil Wayne, Nicki, and all them talking about, and Timberland showing himself in that great big huge studio. The truth of the matter is, when we work in the studios, we go into those bigger studios because, for one, we're bringing more people and we can't fit them into our house. We want to be able to record multiple tracks at the same time, and that's more than 48 for my studio at home. I can record 48 multiple tracks at the same time. So I can have a whole band in here and we all could play together and record a clean track. But when you go above that limit, and when you do things like put one single sound, such as a triangle, you hit it one time, ting, and you record that on one track, which is the way you're supposed to record, then you want to have the ability to do that. Okay, that's what the larger studios are for. The larger studios now are also for mastering. So I'm going to touch on a few things. I'm trying not to ramble too much and just get straight to the point. So for your home studio, this is what you want to be able to do. You want to be able to get from concept to reality. You want to be able to hear what you're creating. Okay, so that's first. So you want a setup that will allow you to at least do 16 tracks with no problem. Okay, you have to be able to lay your drum tracks out on individual tracks is preferred. So what I typically do is I play my drum tracks all together, whether I'm using a real drum set or my keyboards or a drum pad like the Machine. I will do the main drum beat all the way through the song. Okay, I typically play out the whole song. I do create my own little loops and stuff, but for the most part I typically will just play throughout the whole song because I want a different feel. Even if it's from verse to verse, people create loops and they loop their beats, and that gives the song a very monotone feeling all the way across. I like that live feeling all the way across. Either way's right, neither way's wrong. It's just a preference. My preference is to play all the way through. So I play the drums all the way through, and then I go back and I play each segment of the drum set on its own track, and then I cut out that one that I played all together, and then I start putting my effects. I'll mix down my drum beat, put that in track one, and then start writing the song. Okay, and each time I do a layer, is what I call them, I mix them. So my drum beats will be mixed, clean, and perfect before I export them as a WAV file and then import them back into the software as the beat for the song, and then start layering my musical tracks such as pianos, bass, drum, bass, guitars, things like that. Then once I get that done, I do the same thing with the music. I mix it, get everybody balanced, ready to go, export it as a WAV file, put it back in the same software, and then we start laying vocals. Recently, I was working with Black Butterfly, which it was originally going to be the last song on the Awaken album that everybody's been waiting for. 2 years now in the making, and it's actually getting ready. It's in mixing, mastering right now. So Black Butterfly was supposed to be the last song on that album, and as it turns out, the song was so powerful, so big, and so massive. It's 21 minutes long by itself, and it's 3 songs compilated together, that I pulled the song from the album. And following the January release of the Awaken album, we're going to do a June release of Black Butterfly, the album. So I'm writing all new music for that, and as well as producing Mystique and like 10 other artists right now. And then John's got his load, so we're really doing a lot. The whole thing is to be able to take your concepts, write them out quickly. A lot of you should just go ahead, play your drum beat on one track, get it all the way through, put your keyboards, your pianos, your basses, your guitars, break it up the way you want to. Do all of this with no effects, clean. Okay? The reason why is because it doesn't put that load on your computer to play it every time. Once you get the music sounding the way you want it, the way it feels the way you want it to feel, then you start doing your levels. Still, again, with your audio clean. Okay? Get your levels set so that you're not peaking out. You're not hitting those red bars. Because you have to understand, when you get your music to mastering, they need at least 3 decibels below 0 in order to add the mastering effects, which will take it up to 0. Okay? So if you're already at 0, there is no room without distortion to go over that 0. So you want to keep your levels lower. You know, you want your music quieter. I know you want to hear it just pounding, but you can't. Not yet. You keep your levels very low, barely hitting. I'd say I keep mine a little bit below the yellow areas. You know, I stay way below that 0, because when I start adding my effects on, it gets louder. And then I, make sure I got that 3 decibel room to play between 0, which is perfect level. I make sure I'm about 3 decibels below that, so when I send it over to John and he starts putting on the mastering effects, that when they start amping up the music, that I have that room to do it, and it leaves me room to remix anything that needs to be remixed. So you want to keep that in mind from the start, and that's why you want to start with everything clean. You just want to play. That's it. Get that idea on there, get it done, whether you're using loops or real instruments. Get it on there, clean, mixed, leveled out. Listen to it, placed right, fix your errors. If you do that, I'm not one that fixes a lot of my errors. I typically like a lot of my errors, so I don't fix all of them. I fix very few. So from there, then you go ahead and you mix that down, get your vocals. You do the same thing with the vocals. The reason why I do it independently is because traditionally we used to do it that way, and it was easy to make the acapella albums. Remember when you could buy and just hear the vocals, or you could just hear the music? It makes it really easy for when I get ready to do shows and stuff. I can take out all the main vocals, leave the background vocals in there. There's a lot of different reasons that makes this easier later on. Even though I might put a few more moves on what you have to do right now, it makes it easier for you later on. So when you get ready to do a show, you can go in and just drop your vocals down if you need them in there as ghost tracks, or you can take them out completely. You can take out certain guitar solos, and you can go just from the music, or just do a cappella, and you could bounce it around a lot. The a cappella helps when you need to learn your song. I see a lot of new artists grabbing their cell phones, and I've seen them on stage singing their song. Whereas as I'm from the old school, if you don't know the song you wrote, the record labels wasn't hearing it. So almost every single song I've ever written, I could do off the top of my head at any given time. And the a cappella really helps, because then you can just sit back and listen to it, and it helps you get used to your own voice, because a lot of people don't like their own voice. Prince did not like his voice when he really started blowing up. He never really started liking it till later on in life, but he had a beautiful voice, but he was not fond of it. He was embarrassed and always thought that he couldn't sing. And I'm like that too, which a lot of people will tell you I can't sing. I can hold a note. That's what I can do. But I have so many concepts and so much stuff to do in my lifetime that I have to go ahead and sing on my songs, because I'm not pumping out artists as fast or finding the artists that I would like to hear or have for all the music. So until I get to a point where I just have all these artists where I could just write and just push it out there, yeah, you guys have to bear with me. So when you're at home, these steps really help later on, okay? You don't have to do them. You can do it just, straight beat, music, vocals, then mix and export it that way too. It just puts a heavier load on your computer. It makes it hard. You start getting them skips and stuff like that in the tracks. Whereas when you do it the way I do it, it comes out super clean. It puts very little load on your computer, and you can have a lot more fun creating, okay? With the new artists today, a lot of them, I was watching a guy who's doing classes on how to write techno music, and he says he doesn't play any instruments and things like that. It's a blessing to have these young visionaries writing music. And I know, yes, they use a lot of loops, and things like that. And I don't necessarily think it's wrong if it's the loops that came with their software, the royalties been paid, and they got just a different spin on something that somebody else created. I don't necessarily think it's wrong. I think where it comes in at is the creativity part of it. Like when I watch Jeremy Ellis is tight. He's very talented. He's a very talented percussion arranger, and he's a very talented artist. But without his tools, how would he be able to do that? And that's the difference between the people who use loops and the people who actually play. Neither one of them is wrong. It's just if all electricity was off, those that can play piano, guitar, percussion can still create, whereas the others would be out of work. So it's always good that as you're doing all that stuff, learn it. It's not that hard to start maybe getting on a friend's drum set and tapping out the beat on the bass and maybe tapping a snare here and there and hitting some cymbals, and before you know it, you probably will also be doing your own beats on a real drum set, or getting much better at the way you guys mix those loops, because I think that is just awesome, but I like originality, so I lean more, I do, and I'm not gonna hide that I lean more towards artists that actually play the music than I do artists that arrange loops. I love both. I listen to both, but I prefer to hear those artists that play, because you can feel it. You can feel it, just in a couple simple notes, you feel it. So not that you don't with the loopers. It's just what you're feeling is not 100% them. Okay, enough with that. That's just me. So with the looping, you want to be sure that you do the same process, okay? If you're using a drum beat loop, make sure that you have it on its own track, that before you even start using it, that it's got the sound that you want, and it's at the levels that you want. And then you still leave it clean. And when you start adding in extra effects, it's at the end. When you have the whole song done, you're listening to it and everything sounds good, then you start adding your effects, putting that weight on your computer, okay? Then you mix down so that you have room from that red 0 point, where you want it to hit just at that 0. So you just see the first line of red, right? You want to make sure you got room left there so that you can have it mastered, okay? Now, home recording, almost every artist does it now. The reason why is because of money. That's simple. A long time ago, artists learned that record labels was charging us for our studio time and charging us premium prices. So a lot of artists started taking their sign-up money and building their own little recording studios and doing it themselves, and then just taking the record labels the album. That's actually kind of where it came from. As technology got better, we got better stuff at home, better computers, better speakers. My speakers, I don't even have to set up the installation for the room. I don't have any of that, nor do I have it for my microphone. And I get a great sound. It's going to be a lot greater once I finish getting the booth, the half shell booth for the microphone in the upright stand so I can stand up. But it sounds great as it is. And it's good enough for me to get the ghost tracks in there to send off to the studio to be mastered. And that's what you want. You want it to be good enough so that when you go to that main studio, that your tracks are already there. The songs are already done. Even when I had to pay for studio time and go to the studio, John will tell you, I come in with like 22 songs just locked in memory. And I would sit there once we turned on that equipment. Once that equipment was on, it was showtime, period. And I go from one song to the next song to the next song to the next song to the next song, track after track, laying all these clean tracks on every single song. And then I go back through, fix all the errors real quick, pop in my effects real quick, and I would be done. And I write whole albums in approximately 2 to 3 hours. Whole albums. I'm talking 15 to 16 songs and whole in about 3 hours. Okay? So I would just knock these albums out quickly, but I was at home playing the music, scoring out my music, getting it in my head, making sure I knew it by heart. So when I got to the studio, I wasn't wasting money. I wasn't wasting time. I was in there to do what I got to do. And I quickly did that. Well, now we can do that at home. Okay, so now I can sit at home and play around with different sounds and be creative, because I couldn't afford to sit there all day and get creative in the studio. I had to know what I was doing once I was in that studio. When you record at home, you have time to play. You have time to really just get the music the way you want it, okay? Without paying anything more than your public service bill. And if you're like me, you're looking for a solar system so that you ain't even got to pay that. So you want to be able to enjoy your music, play it, get it perfect. You send it off to the studio. You go in, you fix whatever needs to be fixed. You're there for maybe a half hour, $50 an hour. That the average studio goes from $50 on up. Okay, so you can get a pretty good studio for about $50 an hour with a really good engineer. And you want to try out at first a couple different studios. And I know some of you taken mastering classes. I know that some of you at home master your albums from home, and it sounds great and everything, and that's good. But the advantage of taking it to a mastering studio, just like the new software that's supposed to master your music, well, if you really compare it to a real true mastering, the audio is basically taking an average algorithm, which is a type of program that takes several different sources of data and then compiles information based upon that data, an algorithm. Okay, so what happens to your music is just that. Yes, they sound good, but compared to like a person mastering your music, no, there's definitely no comparison. And I can share a actual test that was done, and they got it on video showing all the top of the one button record, mix your music for $9.99 compared to a $600 guy who was mixing music, and his was way up there. Okay, theirs was great. Get you your radio play. It'll get you where you want to go. If you don't have a lot of money, yes, do it. Okay, I understand, bro. I understand, bro. Okay, that's why I'm making this video, because I understand broke, and I'm telling you guys how to go from broke to balling. Okay, so I understand it, and if that's going to get you to where you're going to go, because the whole thing is to go from the dream to reality. Okay, so if the one button pushing mixing can get you from sitting at home writing music that all your friends are saying great to radio play, do it. Do it. Okay? But if you can afford an engineer, and if you can afford to get to a mastering studio, even if you have to work out a deal or something like that, don't ever just think that the bottom line is that dollar. Okay? A lot of the money I made, we got to pause for a second.